Okay, so we are ready to paint. Now, I just want to remind you, this is an exercise. This doesn't need to be, absolutely perfect. Also, just because like I did this in Photoshop and each shape is very clear and crisp, doesn't mean you have to paint it exactly perfectly clear and crisp and get really close. This is an exercise, and the main goal here is to shift the way you look at a portrait and how you go about thinking about it in terms of your brush work, gauging, comparing values and colors. So just keep that in mind as you're going. Don't try and be so careful while you're painting. And a lot of this is going to be pushing and pulling. You'll even see with me, like I'm not going to get the perfect exact right color and value right off the bat most of the times. I have to come back to an area and push it and pull it. And that is such an important thing to learn when it comes to portraits. So let's just jump on in. I got my palette, got ivory black, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, cadmium red, yellow ochre, and titanium white. Got some Gamblin solvent-free gels in my medium to get the paint flowing more. And got some paint thinner. Just gonna be using number 2 brush. Use whatever brush you feel comfortable with. So where should we start? I always like to start with something I feel confident I can get right off the bat. If I went in and tried to get like this color right here on the cheek, I could guess, but I would need this color and that color and this color and that color around it to like kind of finalize it and be sure that I got it right. But a color like this, which let's be honest, is pretty much black, that's not that difficult. So I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna get some black. Get a touch of that gel in there just to get this moving. Get people asking like, when do you use the gel? Well, you'll notice with oil paint, certain colors flow differently. Some can be stiffer than others. And this just allows you to control that. You can make it flow more or less depending on what you want. Just gonna get a touch of red in there just so it's not pure black. And so we have this dark shape kind of right there. If I look, it kind of starts, it's like the middle of that eye. If you drop it down, it's kind of like right in here. Kind of comes down to that collar. And again, I'm not extremely worried about getting it exactly perfect because I will be able to move it later if I want. Another thing that's going to be helpful is when you have a color is to see other areas where you can find that. You can see it's actually kind of more over there. I can see it a little bit happening kind of over here a bit. Where is this dark? I see it a little bit there on the top of that eye a bit. Up here. And it's kind of just like placing notes. Like think of them as like color notes. Okay, now I want to get this. This is a good, because I have this dark color. And right next to it, it's like this brown, and this shape kind of comes all the way up. It kind of goes all the way up there. It's a shape that covers a large area and actually kind of comes down into here. So if I can get that color and value right, I can cover a large section of this. And it's right next to the color we just put down, so I can use this to compare. So I see if I branch off with maybe just throw some burnt sienna in there. It's pretty warm brown. Might get a touch of white. That might have been a little too much, but maybe pull a little more of that in there. I can kind of see it's pretty close. A little more black, maybe just a touch of red. Because it starts up here, comes down. See, and I can actually use this shape to cutting back into this darker shape. So if you didn't get that first shape in drawn right, like I didn't, you can do this. And again, don't worry if everything's not perfect right now. Like, you'll have time as we go to adjust. That's what I want you to learn doing this, is get practice with the adjusting process. And have fun with this, you know. And you'll watch, you know, doing this, you'll see me keep my brush on the canvas for a long period of time. So now I'm going to look other areas and see where else do I see this dark brownish color. See it actually come down into that bottom eyelid. And I actually see it come up. There's a light shape right there, but I know I can go over top later. And it kind of comes down right into there. This also, it comes up here, right into the hair. There's a little bit of this over on this side of the hair. I can start getting that in a bit. We are just moving right along. Let's move to this lighter piece. So just gonna throw maybe some yellow ochre into this. And honestly, the color's not nearly as important as the value. That's what I'm mainly concerned about here. So I'm seeing that. And you can also see that I'm, in a way, drawing with shapes here. Just gonna get a touch of white, maybe lighten this up a little bit more. Noticing I need to jump back to the previous brown, just bring this over a little bit. All right, we are on the move here. Now I'm seeing, do I see this color anywhere else really? I feel like this part of the nose, this right side of the nose, this right plane, is similar, maybe a touch lighter. Maybe just a little bit of white, and maybe a touch of the cad red. See how it's always comparing? Like, I'm never looking at a color by itself. I'm always thinking about it in relation to other colors around it. And I'm just constantly thinking, does it need to be warmer? Does it need to be cooler? Does it need to be lighter? Does it need to be darker? Okay, now I realize that I totally missed this shadow color, which no problem. Painting a portrait isn't exactly a linear process. It's like putting together a puzzle. So I can just come right back. Got that there. And then it's a little lighter on this side. I'm seeing I could bring that down a bit. And then this lighter bridge of the nose color. All right. Now, a little dark in there. Let's try and do this nose. It's a good simple part of the face to kind of get and use as a key. So like, because we got the shadowed side, we got the lightest plane, because you break it down into, well, 4 planes. You got this plane, that plane, this plane, and then bottom plane underneath. So let's try and get those all working together. And if we can get those working together nicely, that means we're on the right track, and then we can use that nose to help us compare other areas. Let's just do this other side here. Just clean my brush with a little bit of yellow ochre, touch of white, a little cad red. It's gonna get you kind of like a fleshy color. I'm gonna want to neutralize that just a tiny bit with black. Just a little bit. I think I can go a little darker, a little more red, yellow ochre, touch of black. I got that plane there. Now the middle one, just catching the most light, so I'm going to branch off. A little more white, touch of red. A little bit of black, so it's not too saturated. All right, I'm pretty sure those are working. I'm actually gonna get some burnt sienna into here, and I think I want to lighten. See, this is what I mean by comparing and coming back. I'm gonna push slightly lighter. Right. So now I can start working over to other shapes. I'm gonna get kind of a pink and put some black and desaturate a bit for this over here. This shape, it's happening right below the eyelid. And then as it goes up, it gets slightly darker and a little warmer. So I'm going to put a little more yellow ochre, touch more black, because this little shape here, actually get a little more red, burnt sienna, This shape is going back into the shadows. Right there. Now if you need to, you can always come back, kind of resculpt that shape if you need to. I'm also going to probably come back and lighten just a little bit this shape. See what I mean? That it's all about adjusting. You know, you're not going to get things in perfectly on the first go. You need the information around it. But the more information you get, the more like you go through the painting, the easier it's going to be to get things right on the first time. So let's just let's jump to this bottom eyelid. Eyelids get broken down into 3 planes: 1, 2, 3. And so they progressively get darker as they go around. So as long as you get that, you should be good. Now this skin around the eyes can tend to be a little grayer or bluer. So this right here isn't going to be like the most vibrant color, but this part of the eyelid's the lightest. Actually, just getting that in makes me want to lighten this shape below it just a little bit. Okay, so now the middle plane of this eyelid is slightly darker. Pretty cool, huh? Now this middle plane, actually gonna go down to a smaller brush here. It's got a 0 flat brush. Keep, I got this first one here. But now this middle plane, the color and value for it, if I go up, same kind of thing is happening on the top eyelid. And then it gets a little darker, so it's like some burnt sienna and black. A little paint chunk on my brush. It's right there. And then this is actually getting shadow. Get some red. Burnt sienna and black, and I just feel like I can kind of lighten this shape in the brow here. It's all comparing. This is just such a good exercise in comparing, and the more you get, easier it's going to be. So you can see we got 1 plane, 2 plane, 3 planes, and so I can get this dark around the eye. If we get some white, every black, get you kind of a cool gray. So I'm going to use the white of that eye. The right side of the why the eye is a lot darker. It's a lot more in shadow, so a little more black. Touch of red. I got that right there. Now the color of the eye is mainly on the bottom part of the eye. It's like a greenish color. If you get some white, maybe black, maybe a touch of the blue. First time we're using blue here. A little yellow ochre should get you a desaturated green. I don't want to, it's a little too bright. A little more black. Now, going back to a lighter value, I think I can push this a little lighter. Also continue light shape right there. Get a little pinker color right in there. See, now I got like a good amount of shape so I can play with them a little bit if I want. I want to push things lighter. There's also this kind of dark gray shape. Some black, red, white and yellow ochre. Redesigning this shape here. See, I'm kind of like bouncing around to get things where they should be. Kind of angles up there. Getting a kind of a mid-value grayed down pink for this bottom eyelid. Always looking to adjust values. Like I could probably push this a little darker. Now, this plane, there's a plane change here and it gets slightly darker, slightly grayer. Right there. And then it gets even darker as it shifts down into here. So you can see how it's like helpful to kind of move from one shape to the next that are touching each other. Then we got, and it's gonna go slower at the beginning because you're doing a lot of comparing and dialing things in, but as you go, you're gonna kind of solve more problems and kind of figure out certain colors. And so you're not going to have to do as much like trial and error the more you go. Like, I feel like I'm still adjusting this pink shape here. All right, let's get up to the forehead. This should be fun. This color is actually very similar to this plane there. Actually gonna go back to my number 2 brush. So I'm mixing up enough paint here. And black and red, touch of yellow ochre. Push a little more white. That's it. Comes across here, maybe a touch of the yellow ochre. And then even more white, a little more yellow ochre. And then gets darker again, a little warmer. This plane change right here. I feel like it's the same color that's kind of up there. It's a little bit darker. As it goes to the right, it's a little more red and black. I feel like this is a little too cool. I need to warm it up. I don't know, we'll see. This is slightly warmer. Right. Now, if you want, can got like a small little rigger brush here. Just gonna get really light pink, because this is a little the lightest part, the eyelid right there. And then also a little bit of white. Top left corner. A little catch light. All right. All right, what should we do next? Should We try the eye. Left eye and all those shapes. Let's go for it. So the eyebrow, you got one shape here, one value, and then the value changes because there's that plane change. And also, eyebrow gets thinner. So this eyebrow, not a super vibrant color. I got started maybe some like red, black, and a touch of white. It's almost like a desaturated grayed down purple. But I'm mainly comparing it to this light shape above. And then it gets a little lighter, maybe with some yellow ochre. So it turns that plane right there. Now I'm also seeing there is like a slim little line kind of going here. It's like a cast shadow from the hair. Just gonna get that in. Alrighty. Actually, I kind of want to get this in. This is a really fun color. So there, you can see it's like, get some white, red, touch of black. It's going to get you a very light, desaturated purple. I'm actually going to maybe just touch a little bit of blue. A lot of times underneath the eyes, they can get pretty gray or cool or blue. Still desaturated, but I really like that purplish shape there. And then it comes down to kind of the pinkish shape. Now, this is a lot brighter and more saturated than this one. Just keep that in mind. So you just mix, start with some white, some red, a little warmth to it, so maybe a touch of the yellow ochre. Maybe grab a little bit of that previous color just to help desaturate it a bit. All right, now, again, this next shape, as it's going towards the eye, it's gonna get a little more desaturated. A little yellow ochre, pulling in some other color there. So still pretty pink, but not as pink as the one right there. A little darker. Now this color is darker, but it's still pretty pink. Still a lot of adjusting. You see how I'm kind of moving along quicker now because I'm getting the right color and value faster because I've kind of done the trial and error part. Even though I'm going to come back now and lighten up this side plane of the nose because it's lighter than this, and I think I got that right. So I just want to come back and lighten. And I said it in a previous video, but don't try, if you're trying to like copy my color mixing, like a recipe and trying really hard, be like, all right, what did he mix there? Like, what did he mix with that? How much of this? How much of that? Like, oh, he didn't say he went to this color, that color. It's, you know, you're not going to really be able to do that. I feel like getting the right color, you're better off understanding the process and what to look for. I always kind of like it if you're, you know, if you're making like a meal or you're making like soup or something, you're putting, you know, pepper in it, you're putting salt, you're putting sugar, and you're like, all right, and you taste it. And that's kind of like what I do. Like I'll put a mark down, be like, ah, no, it needs to be a little warmer. I'll put it like, ah, no, it needs to be a little less saturated. You know, just like if you're making a soup and you'd be like, oh, it's too sweet, I need to add some more salt. Or like, oh, it's not spicy enough, I need to add some more pepper. And you do it that way. It's not like a recipe thing. And so much of it is comparing. It's not like an exact color that I'm looking for. I'm looking for, a lot of times I'm like, okay, like when I was just going through these, I was like, all right, got a pink. Now I need to make a kind of like a darker version of that pink for that one. And now I need to make, you know, a warmer kind of muddied down version. Like I'm just always thinking of the color in comparison to other colors. Rarely do I ever think like, oh, that's a orange, that's a blue. I think, oh, that's oranger, or that's bluer. Again, above this eye, you know, everything with the eye, the bottom eyelid, the top eyelid, and then the brow, look for the three planes, three planes, three planes. It's so helpful to know that, because when you're painting just a regular portrait, as long as you get those in there, even if they're rough, like you're going to communicate so much form. And then people are going to be like, whoa, like how'd you know, you're painting, it's so loose, but it looks like the person. It's because you know things like this. You know to communicate those three planes, even if it's very loosely done and very simply done, they're still there. And so the form's going to be there. People are going to think you're so cool and awesome and good because you can paint loose. And they think that it's because you're painting really fast, and that's not really the case. It's because you have the knowledge to back up the loose painting. So I'm stepping back, kind of seeing any alterations I want to make. I feel like this might be able to go a little lighter. All right, let's do this bottom eyelid. The left plane, pretty warm, this darkest part. Angles down. It's a little lighter and then a little grayer for the middle plane. little more purpley and lighter for this last plane. And you can get pretty pink, the tear duct. Right in there. All right, let's finish up this eye. Gonna go to the top eyelid. Darkest plane there. Light, slightly lighter. The middle plane. Don't want to go too light. Dark, and then actually kind of gets dark again right there. Now, going back to the white of the eye, get some white, some black, touch of the red. Come back with like a desaturated pink for this bottom eyelid. Again with the color of the eye. The light part's going to be at the bottom. That's because the light's coming from the top left. And with the color of the eyes, the light is actually going through the eye and coming out at the bottom. So thing about it is like wherever the catch light is, like catch light's in the top left, a lot of times the most color of the eye is going to be in the opposite direction, which is the bottom right. Actually looking that I need to darken that a bit. A little more yellow, ochre, and red, kind of warm this green up. I think I did a little too much, so I can just come back with some black. So the darker the, it's going to be darker on the top of the eye. Something to always think about. And I have like little areas like right here that I need to fill in. Don't want any canvas showing. I'm wondering if I made that part a little too bright. I'm gonna kind of remix my color for that. Again, it's mainly the value. It's too light right now. Still too light. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of like working a dark into that already white, wet paint on there. So at times you can alter the paint that's on there instead of trying to like just cake on more and more paint. I think I can push a little of that into here. I just feel like this shape needs to be a little warmer. Burnt sienna. Warm shape in there. Top left. There. All right, let's put in this big shape right here, which is very similar, looks like, to the color and value of the left side plane of the nose. So I can kind of use that as a guide. Kind of comes way into there. Putting that in. A little burnt sienna. I'm just going to darken this plane change a little bit. Use that same color here. See it kind of come down here a bit. The mouth, and I also think this warm pink shape to be brought down a little bit further down. All right. Now, you're probably picking up on a pattern happening here, whether it's the nose, the eyes, the forehead, like this kind of 3 planes or maybe sometimes 4 planes to communicate form. You know, you got 1 plane, 2 plane, 3 plane, create the form of the nose. Eyelids, top eyelids, we got those 3 planes. The bottom eyelids, 3 planes. 3 planes of the forehead. Same thing with the mouth. Got 1, 2, 3, progressively getting darker. Down here, I actually kind of broke it into 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 a little bit. Same thing with the chin, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just be paying attention to those as you go and comparing them with one another. Always be stepping back. So this, very similar to that. A little bit darker. There in the middle. right there. And it gets darker. Middle plane there, going to the left. A little bit lighter. To the right. A little bit darker. See, I'm kind of coming back to the first shapes that I put down. And readjusting. Coming right there. Kind of right there. Now, let's have a little fun and go into this mouth. Now, the thing to know is top lip a lot of times is darker than the bottom lip because the bottom lip is kind of acting like a shelf. It's facing upwards. It's catching light coming down. But even this top lip we can break down into 4 planes. We got this plane just darker, which means it's, you know, it's the top lip. Think of the top lip as more like a wall, whereas the bottom lip is like a shelf. So, but this part of the lip, it's a plane change and it's facing the light more, so that gets lighter there, then it gets darker, and it's always going to get darker towards the corners of the mouth because the corners of the mouth, think of them as going back into the face. So let's just start with the dark parts. Let's get some black, some red, get a pretty dark value here. So it's dark, and then that's going to be a light plane. This is going to be dark. Push a little more black because it's going to get even darker. Right there. And so this lighter plane, a little bit of white, a little bit of red, a little yellow ochre. Don't want to make it too bright. A little bit of black in there to knock it down a bit. And get that top lip going. Now the bottom lip, just going to be in general lighter. It's going to start with just one flat color for this light part. And the dark part, because the bottom lip, just like the top lip, it's got different planes and it's going to be darker on this shadowed side. So just take your time, look at the reference. Shapes have been made for you. Push a little more white. for this lightest part. Right there. And now the area around the mouth. Always paying attention, what's happening to the color. Right here it's getting a little grayer. It gets into the corner of the mouth. Look for corners of the mouth to be cooler a lot of the time. I need to change that plane a little bit. Gonna go to the plane above this lip because I think I can bring it down. I think I need to thin this top lip down a bit. Working the shadowed shape on the right side. All right, I think the face is, I think we got all the shapes in. I'm gonna kind of go in and get rid of any blank spots. So now I can start adjusting. Like this needs to be a little darker. Also, underneath the nose, this like left side, it's a little lighter, and then there's like a smaller, lighter shape in there. I feel like this shape is a little too cool, so I'm gonna get some red, yellow ochre. Get that. This is kind of like the fun part. I know it all should be fun, but like this adjusting, like this is, I feel like this is really what it's all about. Like stepping back and saying like, all right, what needs to be altered? Like which parts did I miss? Which things need to be reshaped? Dark shape here. You know, thinking to yourself, you know, always thinking warmer, cooler, darker, lighter. Actually, before I go to the hair, I'm gonna do this neck. And it's all pretty dark, pretty warm. Some black, some red, a little yellow ochre. Just trying to see simple shapes and kind of taking like a little bit of a different approach right now by just kind of blocking out one kind of simple shape and value here to start out with, and then I can go in and then find like this lighter shape right there. Things get a little more red and yellow ochre down here. A little touch of black. That right in there. And again, lighten it up. A little white and yellow ochre shape here. So I'm kind of like working big to small shapes, which you can do for this. Like if you ever wanted to do this again, you could like block out the whole eye socket with the dark and then progressively pull lighter, or, you know, stack lighter shapes on top. This needs to be lighter there. Now going to this hair, I'm gonna do a similar thing where I'm just gonna start by blocking it all out pretty dark, especially on this right side that's mainly all shadow. I just kind of give me a dark base, I can come over top with the lighter values and it's going to make things a lot easier. There it comes there, it comes down. Just want to I'll show you in just a second what I'm talking about if it's not making sense just yet. See, now I have that base so that I can say, okay, I'm gonna get some yellow ochre and like this kind of streak right there. That's about right, see. That. A little more red. Just a little more white. Yellow ochre, kind of this cool gray right there. A little more black, cool it down for this shape up here. You see how like once you put in that like base black, it makes it easier to kind of stack things. It's always easier to work dark to light, stack lighter values on top of darker values. All right, going on to the other side. Appears pretty dark. Maybe there's a little red. It's a little lighter. Just trying to go one shape at a time. There. It's down here, it's kind of like a saturated purple, which you probably noticed a lot of times. I'll just, when I need this like the saturated purple, I just go to the white, black, and cad red. Needs a little bit of yellow ochre to warm it up. Next shape's even more, there's a little more yellow to it. Just gonna kind of black this out. I'll come back over top with the lighter shapes. Just a moment. There. Should I didn't take my own advice, and when I had this color, I should have put it down here. It's kind of there, and then it's around here. Then it gets kind of warmer with some more burnt sienna, yellow ochre. So now I can get the lighter values, a little more white and a little more black. Like I'm still using like the same pools of paint. I'm just like altering them a little bit. So I add some more black and white there. It gets that kind of cooler, lighter color. To there like that. get some every black here. Shadow underneath this collar. There. A little bit of white to this. This part of the collar that's coming a little bit lighter. Right there. A little brighter. See how blue that looks? Alright, I put a little bit of the ultramarine. That's how you get blue with the Zorn palette. It's white and black. There. Just a matter of seeing the shapes. Alrighty. You can take some white, put in the little button. A little one right over here. Now the background, going to a big brush. Just want to get this done quickly. So got a number 6. And just do my trusty, it's a desaturated purple, a little black, a little white, some red. Mainly just want to get that value right. Go a little bit darker. Now in this photo, I took it and there's a backdrop behind her. So if the light's coming from the left, you know, going right, this side is going to be lighter than this side because that's kind of like where the hidden, so you can kind of see it faintly in the reference. Like right here is slightly lighter, which is nice because it's on the dark side, so you get that contrast between light and dark, and then here dark and light. And of course, you know, if this was like a real full-blown portrait, you'd like, you know, you wouldn't have these like harsh lines in the background, but it's for the purpose of the exercise. And the darkest is this little corner here. Now it's really just touch-ups or anything that you see. See a dark shape here. You know, anything you want to add or push or pull. This is an exercise, so have fun with it. Don't be worrying about messing it up. That's not why we do exercises to, you know, we're not trying to be careful here. Pretty happy how this is looking. Again, I'm just mainly worried about the values. This is a great exercise to teach you about the face, and you know, next time you go into a portrait, just having this in your mind is going to help you see so much more. It's going to help you dictate your brush work. Just really wish somebody would have shown me this a long time ago. It's like I'm thinking, do I need to darken this one? I think I do. I don't think there's a big enough difference between this one and that one. I need to push it slightly darker to create more form. That's another thing, is the more you play around with these and the more you get the subtle shifts and subtle relationships, like the more it's gonna work. Like it already works right now, but like if I really spent like another hour and like really dialed this all in, a lot of these transitions and everything, it would read even better. Now I might mess with this a little more after I turn off the camera, because that just tends to happen. I'll like walk by it and be like, oh, I want to fix that. I want to fix that. But as far as the exercise goes, I'm really happy with this. This is the second time I've done this, like this actual portrait. I've done this exercise before another time, but just doing the second time, like I feel like I've saw so much more this go around, and I've never, I don't know, maybe somebody else out there has this kind of exercise. Like I know people, you know, planes of the face is not a revolutionary idea. Everybody teaches that, but like going through in Photoshop and like creating it like this and then having you paint it, I've never seen anybody do it before. So it's interesting for me to do it almost like as a student. Like I feel like I learn when I do it, because I haven't done it that often. But the first time I did it, I was like, whoa, this was extremely helpful. I got to do this for my students. You can see right now I'm just doing little nitpicky things. Alrighty, I'm gonna stop before I mess it up. All right, have fun painting.